Okay. All right. Let's start off with a word of prayer. Gracious, eternal, merciful, and ever-loving Father which art in heaven, we are indeed thankful that you have given us this privilege to take time to focus on matters that pertains to you, that pertains to the work that you have given us to do in these last days. We pray, Lord, that as we go through the study of your word, and as we relate it to the events that are happening in the world right now, that you give us much wisdom, that you give us much understanding, that you would open our eyes to see and recognize the time that we are living in, and how it pertains to prophecy, and also how it pertains to us as your people, as we prepare to meet you in glory. Yes. So pray for our hearts and minds even at this time, Lord. Cleanse us from all unrighteousness, forgive us from all sins, and allow your Holy Spirit to abide with us even at this time. This we pray and ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay. So a few weeks ago we would have touched on, you're seeing the screen?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right. So the heading is there. We would have touched on an event that took place which more or less fulfill a bit of prophecy. All right, so we'll quickly go into it, and then we'll work our way up to the events that are happening right now, or I should say recently. Now, every day, things are happening that shows us how prophecy is being fulfilled, on a day-to-day basis. You would have spent enough time in Matthew 24, which more or less shows us a lot of prophetic events that are happening in the world today. The pestilence, the famines, the earthquakes. I think just recently it had an earthquake in this country, can't recall. And earthquakes, as a matter of fact, has been happening every day. It's just that because of COVID-19, and now COVID-19 is more or less on the forefront, we are not seeing these things being put in the media. All right, but these things are happening every day.
Total shifted.
Yes. Right, and we actually took some time to address that matter and show the reason why these things, or COVID-19, is being put on the forefront. All right, but things has been happening behind the scene that the student of prophecy should not miss. All right. So based on this heading here, Pope Francis joins with CEOs of Fortune 500 companies to form a new council focused on creating a more equitable economy. Now, at a glance, this may not mean much to most people. All right. Now, this is an event that took place in November. December, actually. There was a meeting, actually, that the Pope himself was part of, and within it, he put out a letter. Now, the Pope usually puts out letters, and these letters more or less shows the agenda of his papacy from time to time. All right? The previous letter that he had was a letter called Laudato Si. And within that letter, the main thing that he highlighted was the issue concerning the environment. Of course, that would represent the climate change movement. The later letter that he wrote, which he put out in November, is a letter called Fratelli Tutti, which, when translated, means brothers all. So that name itself basically shows the whole agenda of unity, a whole agenda of ecumenicalism, where the idea is to bring all bodies or religious organizations, and by extension, governments of the world together. And all this is geared towards the common good. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now, even within that letter, that recent letter that he put out, he in itself, as you would see in the article here, which is better capitalism, that in itself was the true essence of what the Pope put out in that letter. So essentially, he is saying that the capitalists, he was actually fighting against the major capitalists of the world. And he is saying that these individuals, these organizations, they are not seeking the interests of the common good. They are not seeking the interests of the people. They are greedy and they are selfish and they are only working towards their own end. So he is particularly fighting against that, and he put out that via his letter. Now, based on what happened there, we saw that, and I'll read the highlights of the article. All right, so the first one says the CEOs of Visa, Bank of America, Salesforce, and other Fortune 500 companies have joined the Council for Inclusive Capitalism with the Vatican. So that's the name that they fall under. The council led by Pope Francis will promote a more inclusive form of capitalism. Now that in itself is contradictory, right? Capitalism, we'll take some time to look into the definition of that, it does not involve that sense of inclusiveness, all right? But here we see the Pope itself is trying to transform what true capitalism is. Okay, so encouraging leaders to advance fairer policies and reduce inequality in society. The members' companies represent more than 10.5 trillion in assets under management. So these are the different businesses that united under the council. This is what this is the power behind them financially. $10.5 trillion. All right, this council will follow warning. Get that? It followed a warning from Pope Francis to listen to the cry of the earth and the cry of the poor and answer society's demands for a more equitable and sustainable model of growth. So, I think the main question that stands out here is why it is these major companies feel that they have to respond to the call of the Pope. I think that should be the burning question in everyone's mind. Why do they feel that they should respond to that? Okay? That in itself speaks volumes. So these are some of these organizations that formed the alliance with the Pope, right? CEOs of Bank of America, Visa, EB Johnson & Johnson, Salesforce, and several other Fortune 500 companies are joining forces with Pope Francis to promote a more inclusive form of capitalism. All right? I wouldn't go into the entire thing. Now, we also took time to show who is the person in charge of this council. All right? Let me see if this article highlighted her. All right, this article does not highlight her. All right, so her name is Lady the Rothschild. Okay? Lady the Rothschild. She's the one who is in charge of the Council for Inclusive Capitalism with the Vatican. Lady the Rothschild. I don't know, many of you all know who the Rothschilds are. All right?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so she's the one, she's actually married into the Rothschilds family, and she's the one spearheading the whole movement. So it's a group of 27 of them, 27 major businesses that form that group to more or less answer the calls of the Pope. So essentially what they're doing is giving their support towards the common good that the papacy is putting forward. Now, this is only the start. The plan is to get more major companies on board so that they could, and I speak prophecy, give their power to the papacy. All right, if we read Revelation, 18, verse 3. All right, let me share the screen. All right, so Revelation 18, verse 3 says, "For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies." Who are the merchants of the earth, brethren? These are the same major companies. All right? These are the companies that actually, they have a lot of, when they consider the workforce under them, right? Because they went on to say that the workforce that they command under them is in the millions. I think it's like 700 million persons. So when they consider 700 million persons employed under them, consider their families, you know, so on average you can multiply that by 3. So you see the amount of people that they command or they more or less have under them. Okay? As a reason why I'm saying this, we will take time to look into it. The whole essence that we must understand with all this that we're speaking of tonight, folks, is that control is the name of the game. Somebody is trying to control the world. Okay? These steps are basically the lead up towards that. This is what we need to keep in mind. All right? There are different ways an entity can control the world. Money is one of them. So this is what we are looking at. So the merchants of the earth, according to Revelation 18 verse 3, all right, we took some time to look at who the beast is. All right, we learned that the beast represents the papacy. So this is speaking of the beast here, and the merchants of the earth are rich through the abundance of her delicacies. So we're seeing a unity here between the major businesses, the major merchants of the world, as it relates to the papacy. Okay? So this is a partial fulfillment of what is taking place here. More businesses, more merchants will get on board, as I believe, and that will just be one step towards the level of control that this entity could have on this entire world. So, moving on. All right, there's a few definitions. So the Pope is particularly against capitalism. What is capitalism? An economic and political system in which a country's trade and industry are controlled by private owners. All right, you're not seeing this, right? Sorry, let me take out the Bible. All right. So capitalism, once again, is an economic and political system in which a country's trade and industry are controlled by private owners for profit rather than by the state. So that is the two sides, is personal or private ownership as opposed to state ownership. Capitalism more or less uplifts private ownership. So you have ownership of your possessions, your property, your land, you know, your vehicle, different things. You have ownership over these things. All right, this is capitalism.
What capitalist countries we have now in the world?
America. Okay, so I just highlight America, Trinidad, right? The majority of countries in the world are actually based on that capitalism, where you have that liberty to open your business and make a living, all right? Things like that. Right. So that is capitalism, but there's the opposite side of capitalism, and what is that?
Communism.
Communism, okay? So what is communism? Communism is a theory or system of social organization in which all property is owned by the community, and each person contributes and receives according to their ability and needs. Okay? So within communism, you do not own anything, right? The definition here says everything is owned by the community. In most cases, this community represents the government. All right? The government owns everything and they distribute to the masses, to civilians, according to their needs. Okay? So this is what communism is. What countries in the world are major communist countries? All right, we have China. China, Russia, you know, these are countries that based on they run their system via communism. Okay? Now, a little history. Why it is we are highlighting this? When you go back to the whole agenda as it pertains to prophecy, we learn that in Revelation 13, that a system is going to be put in place where if you don't align yourself with the system or receive certain things from them, you will not be able to buy and sell. That in itself, for that to be fulfilled, for that to happen, the world must fall under communism. Okay? The world must fall under communism for the whole market of this crisis to be put in place. Okay? That is the whole essence of this thing. So here we would want to see that the whole spirit of communism is being brought to the forefront. Different elements are working in darkness so that this certain end will be achieved. Communism. Communism is the silent enemy. Don't look at COVID-19. Don't look at all climate change and these things. Communism is the true agenda. We would see why. A quick study into, you do a quick Bible study. We are looking into Genesis. For those who have your Bibles, we're looking into Genesis 47. No problem, Auntie Yvonne. All right, so we're looking at the Genesis. I in some pages flipping. All right, very good. All right, Genesis 47. Of course, for us to understand what is happening in these days, we need to go back to the Bible. Bible already tells us all that is to happen. So a closer study prophetic accounts in the Bible, we could relate that to what is happening today and really understand the true agenda of the powers that be. Now, this is an account in Egypt in the time of Joseph. We know that we learned that Joseph was more or less given into slavery by the hands of his brothers. And we saw in Egypt where Joseph was favored by God. And through providence, he was able to work his way up into a rank in Egypt, where he had command over the province. Okay, so we are using what is happening, what happened in the time of Joseph, to really identify what is happening in the world today. All right, so I'll just choose the more solid points in the scripture, and we can move on from there. Now, all right. This was in the time of a famine that took place in the land of Egypt. Joseph would have, Pharaoh himself, he would have had a dream. And within the dream, so this is based on, you could take notes. For the sake of time, I would have went to, this is Genesis 41, where Joseph had a dream. Not Joseph, Pharaoh had a dream. And within the dream, he saw 7 fat cows, 7 skinny cows, 7 full corn, and 7 withered corn. All right? He couldn't understand what the dream meant, so he employed the skills of Joseph to really convey to him or translate to him what the dream meant. All right? So God gave Joseph wisdom to translate that dream to him. And Joseph told him that dream represents 7 years of plenty, followed by 7 years of famine. So this account here in Genesis 47 represents what happened within the time of famine, within the 7 years of famine. So verse 13 here says, and there was no bread in all the land, for the famine was very sore, so that the land of Egypt and all the land of Canaan fainted by reason of the famine. So there was a famine in all the land of Egypt. We see what transpired. All right, verse 14 says, and Joseph gathered up all the money that was found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan for the corn which they bought. And Joseph bought the money into Pharaoh's house. So all the money in the land was gathered up into Pharaoh's house. So all the money was in one location. Verse 15 says, and when money failed in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came unto Joseph and said, give us bread, for why should we die in thy presence? For the money faileth. So a major economic crisis took place in the land of Egypt, where the money failed. Now, if we bring this to this day, what are the different ways money could fail in the world today? These are the things we must consider. What are the different ways money could fail? Now, the world is heading towards a digital currency. So we have the likes of cryptocurrency and all these things. All right. Tangible money at some point will be no longer. Physical money, cash money will not be king no more. Everything is going online, everything is going digital. Remember what I said before, that the aim is for control. Who it is to say that they can control us. if we have physical money in our hands, who it is could control me buying something or giving somebody else money in exchange for goods, cash money in exchange for goods? No one could really control that, yeah? But when money goes digital, now think of this, right? When money goes digital, it is as simple as flicking a switch and you will be fully cut off from access to your money. Catch what I'm saying? Just by the flick of a switch, you can get cut off. Okay?
Right.
Now we saw a simple situation that transpired right in Trinidad, where the submarine cable, the submarine fiber between the islands got damaged. You remember this? That happened last month or 2 months ago.
Yeah.
And that caused havoc in Trinidad, as we knew it. Get what I'm saying? That in itself shows how easy we could get cut off from our possession. We could get cut off or put in a position where we cannot be able to buy and sell. Okay? Let's continue. And Joseph said, give your cattle. So the people, because money failed in the land, they ran out of bread. So they went to Joseph to ask for bread. So Joseph said, give your cattle, this is verse 16, give your cattle and I will give you your cattle if money fail. And they brought their cattle unto Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread in exchange for horses and for the flocks, and for the cattle of the herds, and for the asses, and he fed them with bread for all their cattle for that year. So he thought a lot bartering taking place here. When that year was ended, they came unto him the second year and said unto him, we will not hide it from my Lord, all that our money is spent. My Lord also hath our herds of cattle. There is not aught left in the sight of my Lord, but our bodies and our lands. So, by the way, cattle back in the day was used as a form of income. That is what they used to make a living. Alright, so that was their jobs. So we see that they gave their jobs then, or their jobs was more or less in the hands of the government of that day. You see this? Mm-hmm. Alright? So they give their cattle to the government of that day. Alright? So it reached a point where all they had, so their jobs were given up, right, like the cattle and these things. They have no money. All they had at this point here were their bodies and their lands. Alright? Wherefore shall we die before thine eyes? Verse 19. Both we and our land. Buy us and our land for bread. And we and our land will be servants unto Pharaoh. And give us seed that we may live and not die, that the land be not desolate. Folks, what the song's like? This is slavery.
From a yeah.
This
and
is
they move from
slavery.
capitalism to communism too.
So you're seeing that, right? So
I was wondering how close is that related to indentureship?
say that again, bro.
I was wondering how close is that related to indentureship?
Mm-hmm.
How close is it related to?
Indentureship.
Correct.
Indentureship.
And that's my point. This is slavery once again. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
History always repeats itself. So one thing I want to highlight also in verse 19, all right? They said, buy us and our land for bread, and we and our land will be servants unto Pharaoh, and give us seed that we may live and not die, that the land be not desolate. Genesis, Revelation 13. This is the mark of the beast crisis here. Only when they align themselves with the government, only then they are able to buy and sell. Only then they are able to receive goods so that they could survive. And notice, I get some feedback. All right. So it's only when could you unmute your mics? I'd rather do it myself. All right. Okay. So again, this is Revelation 13. This would represent the mark of the beast crisis. All right. Now, within the mark of the beast crisis, the main issue there is worship. All right. The main issue in the mark of the beast crisis is over worship. So here we see that they're saying that they will be servants unto Pharaoh. So in essence here, they are worshiping Pharaoh for the benefit of receiving their goods. Okay? So keep that in mind. Now we continue. Only the land. Now this dawned on me recently, and I'll take some time to explain it. All right? Only the land of the priests bought ye not. For the priests had a portion assigned them of Pharaoh, and did eat their portion which Pharaoh gave them, wherefore they sold not their lands. So the priests in that day had a certain privilege, while everyone else in the land had to give up their possessions. The priests had a certain privilege where they did not have to. So they kept their possessions and they prospered and lived well, while the famine was going on in the land. Right? So I'll jump again. These priests here today would represent the major merchants, the major entities in the world, right? So these would be the Gates, the Rothschilds, the Kissinger, the Rockefellers. These would represent these persons. All right? Remember, the whole controversy in Revelation 13 is only two classes that it would have. The middle class would be no longer. All right? There would only be rich and poor. All right? Rich and poor. So the rich will have their possessions while all this is happening in the land. All right? So the same names I mentioned, I believe that this is what these priests would represent. These are the ones that will have their possession and these things still in these last days. All right? Let's go again. Then Joseph said unto the people, behold, I have bought you this day and your land for Pharaoh. All right? Lo, here is seed for you, and ye shall sow the land. So the same land that they gave up, the same land where they could have planted their own food and get enough provision to sustain themselves and the families. Like the same land that Joseph gave them back to work on so that they may be able to sustain themselves. All right. Now we understand, brethren, that Joseph represented a man of God in this account. All right. And because of Joseph, the people there more or less were saved. We can look at it that way. All right. I'm just bringing this to current times to show you how the same concept, the same ideology is being brought to the forefront in this time that we are living in. And this whole thing about communism, all right, where the government owns everything and they distribute according to your needs. Alright, so verse 24 went on to say where he taxed the people them. Verse 25. Now listen to what they said in verse 25, right? And they said, Thou hast saved our lives. Let us find grace in the sight of my Lord, and we will be Pharaoh's servants. So this again here shows you that they worship Pharaoh. Alright, the issue, the mark of the beast crisis issue is over worship. Verse 26, and Joseph made a law over the land of Egypt unto this day that Pharaoh should have the fifth part, except the land of the priests only, which became not Pharaoh's. Again, the elites, they have not kept their possessions for themselves. Verse 27, I will leave to the end of the study. Alright, verse 27, that will show us a blessing. Alright, so I'll leave that at the end of the study. So, this was this account in the time of Egypt, and we're seeing how relevant it is as it pertains to the time that we are living in now. Now, Joseph had stored up all the corn in the land, right? What had happened, right? I forgot to mention this. Based on wisdom, Joseph, in the time of plenty, stored up corn for the time, in anticipation for the time of famine that is to come. All right? So Joseph planned, he prepped. Okay? So he stored up corn in the time of plenty. Keep that in mind. Let's bring it current. Let's look at what is happening in the world right now. Okay. Get this? The article here says, all right, this was in August the 9th, 2019. All right, the article says, is China hoarding food, gold, and other commodities in anticipation of a global collapse? Does that sound familiar? Does China believe that we are on the verge of a major global crisis? The communist Chinese government has always been very big in planning, and it appears that they have decided that now is the time to hoard food, gold, and other commodities. Of course, in recent days, the fact that China is completely cutting off US, now this is most recent, agricultural imports has made headlines all over the globe, but at the same time, China is dramatically increasing the amount of food that it is importing from the rest of the world. Alright, so China is hoarding food. China is sourcing food from all over the world to bring into their country. Some of the crops that they usually exported, they're no longer exporting it no more. They're keeping everything, they're hoarding. Alright, this is akin to the time of Joseph once again, where Joseph stored up for the time of famine. So essentially, this is what is happening in China, right? And the question is asked, does China believe that we are on the verge of a major global crisis? Okay? Does China know something that we don't know? Now, we'll put the pieces of the puzzle together and I'll show you all what this means or what this possibly means. Okay? Again, China is a communist country. The party is called the Chinese Communist Party or something like that. Alright? Their organization is based on communism. Okay? As it is now, there's a rift between China and America, where Donald Trump getting in some trouble. Right? Donald Trump is increasing tariffs and throwing out a few sanctions, there's a war going on there between the two. All right. So as of recent, China is completely cutting off U.S. agriculture imports. All right. So they're no longer importing from the United States. As such, they are more or less importing from, I think it's Brazil and some of these other countries. All right. So China is hoarding food. Now I'm going to play a video. Now I brought China to the forefront because of the whole concept of the hoarding the food and the fact that China is a communist country. All right, so let's keep that in mind. Does China have a role to play in the events that are happening in the world right now? I'll play a short part of a video. All right, it started here. All right, you listen from here.
Volume.
You're not hearing it?
No.
But you're hearing it at all, or you're not, just not hearing it? Yeah?
Not hearing him.
All right, I'm not sure. All right, 1 second. All right, I'll share this song.
Cuba with you now. Have a democracy. I'm going to level with you now.
Yeah, and all right.
Anyone who has escaped communist China, Russia, Cuba, or North Korea can see the writing on the wall. In 1963, the communist goals to overthrow the United States were entered into congressional record. They stated, capture one or both of the political parties, infiltrate the press, gain control of key positions in radio, TV, and motion pictures. After this election, it's pretty clear these goals have been achieved. And the more you look into it, the more you see that all roads lead to China, or more specifically, the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP. Guess who owns a massive chunk of Hollywood, including AMC theaters and legendary film studios? You got it, the CCP. Guess who pays millions of dollars to mainstream newspapers, including the Wall Street Journal and the New York Times, to publish their propaganda? The CCP. And guess who's given the Biden family billions of dollars? Yes, the CCP. Now do you see why Biden is the media's darling? On the contrary, who's been the biggest thorn in the CCP's side? Who stood up?
All right, so I mentioned that Donald Trump, on the other hand, is, he more or less giving China some trouble. But based on what this guy is saying here, right, we see how much of an influence China has on America. Now, why America? We took some time to study the significance of America in prophecy. Revelation 13 has two beasts. Okay? Revelation 13 represents two beasts, the first beast and the second beast. We identify the first beast to be the papacy. We identify the second beast to be America. And the second beast is to make an image to the first beast. America makes an image to the papacy. Okay? The papacy once had the supremacy. That is in the time of the Dark Ages. the time between 538 and 1798, we saw where the papacy ruled the entire earth. And at the time, which was called, they had a theocracy, all right, where one religious leader controlled everything. Okay? Communism, in a sense, is geared towards that whole system. All right, history repeats itself. The Bible says that the deadly wound will be healed. The wound that was sustained, that it be sustained in 1798, that wound itself will be healed. So the whole spirit, the whole essence of communism is geared towards that particular end. Okay? So the whole world, which was France, that is where the whole Dark Ages took place. That was in France, that was the whole world. Right? The pilgrims at the time, that was the church, God's church at the time, they had to flee papal persecution. And in fleeing papal persecution, they went into the New World or New England, which represents America today. All right? So the stage moved from France, and the stage is now in America. All right? That is what I'm saying. So, remember the spirit behind it? Satan is particularly interested in America. You know, America represented it was a type of Canaan for the pilgrims. You know, they had to flee to the promised land, so to speak. So they could, and that is why America is founded on two principles, which is Protestantism and Republicanism. Freedom of religion and freedom of your rights. All right? And that is it in itself was what they did not have in the old world via papal supremacy. All right? So the whole foundation of America is being destroyed. The whole policies and this thing is being destroyed little by little via communism. Now, we saw where the guy say here in this video that China has a certain influence in what is happening in America. We see China, they invest a lot in Hollywood, and as we know, movies is one of the ways in which propaganda is spread. Movies are one of the ways that the powers that be, the elites, use to change the minds of the masses, to convert the minds of the masses. Also, we see where China is using the press, the printed press. Some of the popular printed magazines and newspapers in America, China is using those press to print their propaganda. Why would China try to place their propaganda in America? Remember the spirit behind it? Remember what is the agenda? Okay? So, the silent enemy is communism. And this is what is happening in America. All right? We also saw where Biden, now Biden is not, his seat is not official yet. All right? But Biden has, or there's a correlation between Biden and China. I think his son, Biden's son, is in business with China. All right, so we see where there's millions of money went into the Biden's family from China. So there's a kind of relationship taking place between Biden and them. So if Biden is, if Biden's seat is official in well, later this month, what that means for the sake of America. Okay? Folks, this in itself is pointing towards a Sunday law. Remember what I said about Revelation 13, about the two beasts. The second beast is to make an image towards the papacy. All right? All these things are tending towards the issue of worship. I'll keep that in mind. So you also mentioned the Communist Manifesto. All right, the Communist has a plan to take over America. This was written in 1963. It was brought to Congress anytime in America, and they stumbled across this plan by the Zionists of that day, who were communists. And their interest is particularly against or towards America. All right?
Is it? Oh, Father.
Yes. So these are all the plans that they had set out. All right? And 3 are the main things. And we see 15. 15, capture one or both of the political parties in the United States. Have they done that yet? No. But are they getting there? Remember the relationship between Biden and a communist country. So even looking at China, just look up the ideology, which is communism. All right, so capture both. If not both, they just want one. They just need one, but they need to get that one in governance.
Yes, that's right.
All right. The other one is, all right, 20. Infiltrate the press. Get control of book review assignments, editorial writings, policy making positions. Are they doing that now? Right, so we saw that how China has a certain control over the press or influence of the press at some degree. Right, 21 is gain control of key positions in radio, TV, and motion pictures. So we see how a communist country in China has this sort of influence in America. All right. There was this well-known communist named Khrushchev. All right. There's a letter he wrote some time back, and he is saying that we will take America without firing a shot. We will bury you. We can't expect the American people to jump from capitalism to communism, but we can assist their elected leaders in giving them small doses of socialism, which is communism, until they awaken one day to find that they have communism. So, of course, it's through propaganda, through infiltrating the system. They can change the system via these ideologies. Okay? So they say they don't need to fire a shot. No longer are these wars being fought with guns and bombs. Okay? He says that we do not have to invade the United States. We will destroy you from within. All right, this is a quote attributed to late Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev. All right? So no longer are they fighting with guns and bombs. They are fighting with ideologies. They are fighting via propaganda. And folks, understand, based on what they are fighting with, what they are particularly after. They are after the minds of the masses. Dexter.
Yeah, I just was wondering, in your research of this, is that technique what is referred to as the Cold War?
Yeah, that is a type of Cold War, which is a trade war.
Oh.
Yeah, so as a matter of fact, China is at this point accusing America. Right, so America formed an alliance with Australia, I think North Korea, and our next country to go against China. And China is accusing them of starting a Cold War. Catch? So you're right.
Okay. So where Cold War is concerned, that is about finance or is it about, you know, watch those movies and they have espionage and all kind of spy stuff going on. And then they mention the Cold War, but I've never gotten a proper clear definition of if is a Cold War about infiltrating the government and controlling it,
Yes.
or does it also include finances and that kind
Yeah.
of thing? Or
Well,
all those things are part of Cold War tactics?
Yes, so in a sense, it encapsulates all that, right? Controlling via the finance, controlling via the economy, all right? These are some of the things that are involved in a Cold War. So it's not a war being fought with guns and bombs. It's not that type of war, right? That type of war, they weren't able to fulfill the true agenda via those. So, and this is Satan's way of infiltrating the church, okay? Remember, via the papal persecution in the Dark Ages, the 1,260 years, they fought the Christians, they killed them out, but we learned that their blood was like seed. So when they died, more Christians came up, all right? So Satan wasn't able to totally eradicate and exterminate the Christians of the day. So it reached a point where the persecution was, they realized it didn't make any sense. So they accepted the Christians, but the plan was to just infiltrate the doctrine and destroy the doctrine from within. So that in itself is a type of Cold War then, right? So the same spirit back then, the same spirit that is being used, the same method and ideology that is being used right now to control the world. All right, and again, it is particularly after your mind. All right, let's move on quickly. Coming on to the end of this, folks, we are going to bring this local because so far you have been hearing about what is happening in the world at large, but what is happening in Trinidad? You know, we have to personalize it and bring it home. Okay? Right, so I say the silent enemy is communism. Now, I took time to identify what is communism and what it means. So this was an article, an address to the nation by Dr. Keith Rowley. All right, give the screen some time to load. Okay, this was this was Christmas, December the 25th, 2020, all right? So this was an address by Dr. Keith Rowley to the nation. Now, I'm going to read a few paragraphs from what he said, and I want you all to identify the language. All right? All right, I want to read the whole thing for the sake of time. All right, let's look at this here. Trinidad and Tobago is a modernizing society. However, modernity and attempts at modern lifestyles do carry some social maladies, one of which is the decline of the spirit of community and the rise of individualism. Selfishness with a disconnection from the true or inner selves. That notwithstanding, I am confident that we all have within us to love, to forgive, to hope, and therefore to overcome. Did you all see the language? I'm not sure if you're seeing this. What is community? All right, so he's saying one of which is the decline, right, which he labels as a social malady, a social sickness, all right, which he says a decline of communism, and a rise of individualism, which is capitalism. Get? Selfishness, which is capitalism, which is one of the words that the Pope used as he fought against capitalism, with a disconnection from the true or inner selves. So we see in the whole war between communism and capitalism just in this paragraph here. He goes on to say, individualism creates the stresses of anger, impatience, suspicion, and disconnectedness and despair which exist in some pockets of our society. So this address, it was placed in the middle of the address. I know this would have went over a lot of heads. All right. But this itself is the whole crux of this address here. All right. For those who don't know, this is the whole, this is the meat of the matter here. You know, and Dr. Rowley would have gotten his mandate. He would have gotten his marching orders. Okay. Who would he have gotten his marching orders from? You understand how high up these things come from? Okay. Does Dr. Rowley have an influence or has a big say, especially in the Caribbean? Would you say that?
Yeah.
Why? Why would Dr. Rowley have a big say in what is happening in the Caribbean?
I believe he's the head of the CARICOM.
Head of the CARICOM. All right. Yeah. So you're speaking about this, right? Wow. Where did it go? I don't even say on point. So Dr. Rowley is actually the head of CARICOM. Right? The tweet here was actually saying where he's put to become the next chairman of CARICOM. All right? So Dr. Rowley has a major say in what is to happen in this region of the world. Okay? Dr. Rowley is not speaking his own words. Don't ever believe that. All right? Information will be passed on to him just like any other prime minister or president in different countries. They speak or convey information that is passed on to them. Remember, there's a common good via the papacy, and the common good is tending towards communism. Folks, all roads lead to Rome. Okay? We keep hearing that saying, but we don't know how true and powerful that means or what it meant. All roads lead to Rome. All right? If we highlight a Bible text to convey this, right? We can highlight Revelation. All right, Revelation 17, verse 13. All right, Revelation 17, verse 13. All roads lead to Rome.
These have one mind and shall give their power and strength into the beast.
Revelation 17, verse 13 says, all right, so I'll read higher up. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, right, thy prime minister, presidents, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings, one power with the beast, papacy. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. All roads lead to Rome. And the reason why I highlighted China, the guy in the video said that all roads lead to China, but he is partially right. So even if at this point all roads lead to China, we know that it's not the end. The end is in Rome. So the same China, after they gain certain power command over, let's say, food and the economy because they're hoarding gold to it, we saw that in the article. So the finances and the food, all right? China is to simply give their power to the papacy. Catch? Prophecies say that the world, the governing bodies of the world, the United Nations, will give their power to the beast, the papacy. This is what we know. This is prophecy. All right? So all roads lead to Rome. The silent enemy is communism. Now, again, we're going to look how the events in the world directly impacts Trinidad. So we're in Trinidad now. All right, we're almost close. Livestock owners improvise in wake of feed shortage. Why is there a feed shortage, folks? Why do we have a feed shortage in Trinidad? All right, the article says, faced with recent animal feed shortages, livestock farmers are relying heavily on traditional grasses and leaves to feed their starving animals. Since November, animal feeds have run in low supply, exacerbated by rising costs of corn, soybean, and wheat. So there's a shortage of feed via the corn and the soybean and the wheat, plus the prices increase. All right. These raw materials are used by national flour mills to manufacture animal rations. So national flour mills is no longer getting the raw material to produce the feed that is necessary to feed the animals in this country. All right. Let's go on to what national flour mills is saying about this. All right, there's the final note before we close. National Flour Mills is advising the public that the animal feed market is currently facing shortages of some feed types due to a number of factors in both the international and local operating environments. All right, in a statement on Monday, it said NFM, like the other two local feed suppliers, imports raw material for producing feed. All right, now get this. NFM added, shortages of corn and soybean meal are currently being experienced due to an extraordinary high level of demand emanating from where?
China. And China buying all the soybean?
But that is what we covered. Resulting in the unavailability of loading capacity at the ports in supplier countries and a 3 to 4 week delay in shipments to Trinidad and neighboring countries. So China is crowding up the ports where the feeds and this thing is supposed to be loaded. Right? And they say for some reason, some extraordinary reason, there's a high level of demand emanating from China. Catch? And we just covered how China is hoarding food. So China is hoarding food and it's affecting the rest of the world. Now, in another study I would do, you would look into the whole economic crisis via a food shortage. Matthew 24 says that there will be famines. All right. So if you think COVID-19 was bad, wait till you see a famine, a true famine, a shortage of food. Okay, we highlighted what happened in the time of Egypt. Right, we saw where the whole world fainted as a result of the shortage of food. Okay, the reason why I highlighted this, brethren, is because the whole issue is over control, the whole issue is over worship. The control comes before the worship, which is false worship, may I say. Kissinger, you all would have heard of Kissinger, Henry Kissinger say, let's paraphrasing, you control the money, you control the food, you control the energies, you control the people, you control the world. That is his words, not an exact wording, but that is what he say. All right? We know Kissinger had a pivotal role in America itself and in the rest of the world. All right. So we see the whole agenda, which is to control via these elements. All right. I did say I would have end with the last part of Genesis 47. All right. The last part of the Bible is still up. You all didn't see the article I just read. The two articles. All right, so Genesis 47, verse 27. It says, "And Israel dwelt in the land of Egypt, in the country of Goshen, and they had possessions therein, and grew and multiplied exceedingly." So while there was a famine in the land and people were relying on the government of the day for their sustenance, we see here where God's people, Israel,
grew.
They grew, they prospered, and they grew in two sense of the word. You know, physically, and they grew their own food. You know, they planted, and they were in the country, yeah, on the outskirts of Egypt. They planted their own food, they subsisted of the land. All right. This is where Israel was. This is where Israel prospered. So we could look at this in the sense of, you know, this is the Canaan. This is the this is where the, I mean, you know, the Bible talk about being pilgrims and we journeying towards our heavenly Canaan. All right. You know, this in a sense would represent that. But in the interim, it also represents country living. It also represents you acquiring a piece of land, you planting your own food, you being able to subsist of your own food. Because a time of buying and selling will become an issue. It will become a problem. Now, yes, we know that this is just for the little time of trouble. A time is going to come where, and we saw it in Genesis 47, where the land and all these things will be taken from the government. Taken from you by the government. All right? They will have ownership of all these things. Bible says at that point, your bread and water will be sure. All right? The Bible also says, just like in the time of Noah, so shall it be in these last days. All right? I personally believe that we are living in the last days. I trust that you all are also. And if we truly believe this, and we take time to look into the account of Noah, we saw where Noah prepared an ark based on counsel from God. And when Noah prepared the ark, the Bible said that he placed provision on the ark. That provision was basically for their sustenance. All right? That in itself represents the physical preparation, or part of the physical preparation. Bible also says that Noah walked with God. What would that represent today? It represents your spiritual walk.
Walk with God.
Obedience.
All right? Noah didn't literally walk with God. Noah walked with God via his relationship with God.
Being obedient to God.
That's right. So this is where we as Christians, we as who call ourselves children of God, this is where we have to work towards building a deeper relationship with God. This is the time where, you know, we cannot mix matters. You know, there's not the time to be looking again, you know, into your big aspirations, you know, some of the plans that you always had. There's not the time for that. You know, even though 20 years on, you know, before today, yeah, I guess you had some time. But we are living in the last days. The signs are telling us this. And we have to be like Noah. We have to prepare ourselves. We have to prepare our households. We have to prepare our hearts. We have to prepare others. We have to warn them of the crisis to come and of a soon coming Savior. This is the message. The Bible says the gospel will be preached. Matthew 24:14. The gospel will be preached throughout all the world, and then the end will come. So this is the last days, and this is when the gospel is supposed to be going from person to person, door to door, entity to entity. This is the time where God's church is to rise up and spread this gospel. Amen?
Amen.
Amen.
All right. So this is where we are at. It went on longer than I expected, but I trust that you all get the gist. You all get an understanding of what is happening. All right. And you know, we ought to be, you know, the Bible said to watch. You know, these are the things we must be looking at. All right. So, any questions before we close?
It's a lot of information, I know, but an important thing is that we can see how history is repeating itself. So, if we read and understand what happened, like in the times of Joseph and time of Pharaoh, as you explained earlier on, and you know, we liken it onto the times now. The same thing is happening, you know. There's nothing new under the sun, and history is really important. And we get good history from reading the Bible, and in that we could be prepared for the times ahead.
Yes, for sure. You know, the Bible is the greatest history book. When you read the Bible, you pray and ask God for understanding, that He would open up the Bible to you in a way where you will truly understand what is being said. All right? The Bible says the Spirit will lead you unto all truth. So ask God for the Spirit when you are reading